on Yo MTV Raps a couple years before, and then was able to turn it into a full-blown, show with an audience in '94. So that was the second one, and the first televised awards was that one in '95. The awards were amazing. The first time all of the hip hop community and industry could kind of get together in one place and really celebrate ourselves and our culture and our accomplishments and our creativity and all the things that were being overlooked by the rest of the world still in those days. And, people just put hip hop down like, oh, you don't have any talent. You're just rapping, or, you're just sampling things to make music and there's no talent involved. And, people didn't respect the culture and all the talent and creativity. So that was really the impetus for the Source Awards. And I had the relationship that I had carefully built over the years with all of the key players, whether it was Suge Knight or whether it was Jay Prince or, Leor Cohen or Puff or, whoever the case may be, to really get everybody kind of aligned to come together. And they did, and they all supported me with the Source Awards. So, that night, obviously, probably one of the most, most important and most well-known nights ever in the history of hip-hop, with all the things that occurred there. I'll say a couple more things about that. I mean, first of all, Suge Knight really, really supported and helped make that show a success. He was the first and only label that really stepped up and spent a whole bunch of his own money on the show. When you watch the opening set of the Death Row performance with the jail cells and explosions and everything going on, he spent over $100,000 to build that set of his money to support the awards and make it look like a bigger deal on TV, which is what we wanted, and we didn't have the budgets to do all of that stuff ourselves at that time. So other labels, like I said, all supported and all came out, but nobody went to the extent that he did. And, he brought a lot of people out from California. I mean, I think he had 60 or 70 tickets, up in the front area where the industry was seated. I think he said what he said. I think this question about why he said it, I think, one important thing, too, is, going into that night, there was no known association between Death Row and Tupac. There was no known beef going between Death Row and Bad Boy. Pac was in jail. Pac had his beef with Puff and Big and Bad Boy that he had been vocalizing from jail. But nobody knew that he was going to get out a month or two later and join Death Row. Suge probably knew because he had been doing meetings, I'm sure, with him, but nobody knew that. So there was no, going into putting that show together, I had no concerns. There's no feeling that there was any kind of rivalry there that I needed to be, concerned about. People try to sort of make it seem like the Source Awards was like the kickoff point to, what ends up happening with Pac and Biggie. And that's just not fair or accurate either. The real beef starts a month or so after the Source Awards in Atlanta when Suge Knight's man, who was an employee at Death Row, head of promotions, Jake Robles, that I knew and was a great guy, when he gets shot and killed outside of that Jermaine Dupri party, allegedly by somebody that was with Puff, that's when the beef went to an astronomical, violent, kind of very tense level that we saw play out in the months and year or so after that. So I think people, should understand that a little more. Yeah, there was tension, and Puff was upset when it happened. I rushed to the backstage. I was out somewhere walking around in the theater trying to check in the vibes of the audience and, heard the commotion. It's a New York crowd. The front of the building was just the industry, but the other 4,000 seats throughout the theater were all mostly people from New York area who had purchased tickets to be there. So, of course, they had a very pro-New York perspective, which is why you hear Outkast get booed when they win the award, and you hear the reaction to Suge's comments and stuff like that. But I rushed back there. Suge and them were just kind of like running through one side of the backstage, just kind of a lot of uproar and commotion going on and rah-rah. But then on the other side, Puff was there, and he had a bunch of people around him that were all upset. And, but I was able to talk to him, and, he really took the higher road and didn't want it to escalate into anything else. And, he helped calm it down. And, of course, Snoop really is the one that kind of turned the tides in the room that night when he goes on stage a few minutes later and makes his famous, speech, "Y'all don't love us," and, all that kind of stuff. That really helped, cool things out a bit. And, there was no fights. There was no punches thrown that night. There was nobody shot, stabbed, nothing like that. And a lot of times people try to kind of put that image around the Source Awards. Yeah, it was real. It was hood. It was authentic. It was unlike any other award show. But, there was also a level of respect that was there and camaraderie that was always part of the Source Awards over the years.
Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, like, comment, share. Also go over to UGSforlife.com, download the entire archive, and check out new episodes on Apple Podcasts and Blog Talk Radio.